I was at the cabin checking email on the laptop we kept in the office. It was a Tuesday morning in early October. The lake outside the window was still, the bird song peaceful. I wasn't snooping, just looking for a recipe I'd saved. That's when I saw the browser tabs Sarah had left open, 3 of them. I clicked the first one, Search History. My breath caught. How to stage falls for elderly. I read it again. Then I saw the date, September 12th, 3 weeks before my accident. The accident where I'd nearly died on those cabin stairs. My hands started shaking. I clicked the second tab. More searches. Inheritance laws, Minnesota. Life insurance beneficiary rules. Elderly fall injury statistics. All dated the same week. All searched multiple times. The coffee in my mug had gone cold. I'd forgotten I was holding it. I thought about those stairs. The way the third step had given out under my weight. How I'd grabbed the railing at the last second, my wrist screaming as I caught myself. 12 feet down to the stone patio below. If the railing hadn't held, I'd be dead. Sarah had visited the cabin that weekend. 2 days before I arrived, Linda, my neighbor, had mentioned seeing her car in the driveway. At the time, I'd thought nothing of it. Sarah had a key. She'd grown up coming to this cabin every summer. Her grandfather built it in 1962. 3 generations of family vacations, fishing off the dock, campfires, s'mores. Her gap-toothed smile at age 8 when she caught her first base. I looked at the laptop screen again. 23 searches over 4 days. I scrolled through them. How long does probate take Minnesota? Can children contest a will? Average cabin value, Lake Riley. She'd researched the cabin's value. My cabin. The one I'd planned to leave to her and her brother Tom. My chest felt tight. I opened my email thinking maybe there was an explanation. Maybe she was helping a client with a legal case. She was a paralegal, after all. That's what she'd said when I'd asked about the life insurance forms she'd wanted me to sign last month. But there, in her sent folder, she'd forgotten to log out. I found emails to a realtor. Interested in property valuations for estate planning purposes. The realtor had responded with comparables. Cabins on Lake Riley were going for $400,000 to $500,000, depending on condition. Sarah had asked about quick sales, if needed immediately. That was dated September 8th, 4 weeks before my fall. I sat there staring at the screen. The morning sun came through the window, warm on my face. The lake lapped quietly at the shore. Everything looked the same, peaceful, safe. But nothing was the same. My daughter, the little girl I'd taught to fish on that dock, the woman I'd given $190,000 to over 20 years, had researched how to kill me, not how to hurt me, how to make it look like an accident, how to stage a fall, how to inherit the cabin faster. I thought about the stairs again, how I'd felt them shift beneath me, the crack of wood, the terror of falling, the bruises on my ribs that had taken weeks to fade, the sprained wrist I still couldn't put full weight on. That wasn't an accident. I pulled up her browser history again, scrolled to the bottom. September 10th. Inheritance timeline after parent death. She'd planned this, researched it, calculated what she'd gain. That's when I knew. My daughter tried to kill me, and I had proof. Let me start at the beginning. My name is Margaret Thompson. Everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 68 years old. I taught high school English for 35 years before I retired. My husband David died 5 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, devastating. We've been married 43 years. After he died, I sold our house in Minneapolis and bought a smaller place in the suburbs. 3 bedrooms, quiet neighborhood, garden in back where I grow roses and perennials. It was supposed to be my peaceful retirement. Morning coffee on the porch, book club on Tuesdays, visits with my grandkids. The cabin at Lake Riley was David's father's place. Built it himself in 1962. When David's parents passed, we inherited it. We spent every summer there with our kids, Tom and Sarah, teaching them to fish, building campfires. the kind of memories that feel sacred. After David died, I kept the cabin. Couldn't bear to let it go. It was the last piece of him I had, the place where our family had been whole. Sarah is my daughter, 44 years old. She's a paralegal at a small law firm in St. Paul, married to Miguel for 18 years, though that's falling apart now. One daughter, Emma, 16. Beautiful kid, smart, wants to study medicine. Sarah and I used to be close. When she was little, she'd follow me around the cabin like a shadow. "Mommy, watch this. Mommy, I caught a fish." She was the kind of kid who laughed easily, who trusted everyone, who believed the world was good. I don't know when that changed. Maybe it was when her bakery business failed 6 years ago. She'd been so excited about it. Specialty cakes, custom designs. I gave her $85,000 to start it, my retirement fund. I cashed out early, paid the penalties. I thought I was investing in her dream. The bakery lasted 11 months. That's when the asking started, the borrowing. The mom, I just need a little help getting back on my feet. $40,000 for the down payment on her house. $25,000 to pay off credit cards the first time. Another $25,000 the second time. $15,000 for Emma's private school tuition when Sarah couldn't make the payments. $5,000 here, $3,000 there. Christmas. Emergencies. "I'll pay you back, Mom, I promise." She never did. Total. $190,000 over 20 years. I kept track, not because I wanted the money back, because I wanted to believe I was helping her build a life. That's what mothers do. We sacrifice. We give. We hope it's enough. I thought I was being a good mother, but my financial advisor, Robert Chen, tried to warn me 2 years ago. "You're enabling her, Maggie," he'd said gently. We were in his office reviewing my accounts. He'd noticed the transfers to Sarah, the withdrawals. "You're not helping her. You're teaching her she doesn't have to be responsible." I bristled, defensive. She's my daughter. What does he know about being a mother? Now, I see he was right. My son Tom is different. 46, 2 years younger than Sarah. He's an accountant. Stable. Married to Jennifer for 15 years. 2 kids in middle school. Tom never asked me for money. Built his life carefully. Saved. Planned. When I offered to help with his kids' college funds, he thanked me but said he had it covered. That's Tom. Self-sufficient, responsible. The two of them used to be close, but over the years, I watched Sarah pull away from him. She'd make comments. Tom always was Dad's favorite. Tom got the brains, I got the looks. Bitter little digs that David and I would brush off as sibling rivalry. But after David died, it got worse. At the funeral, Sarah had pulled me aside. "I assume the cabin goes to both of us?" she'd asked. Not, "How are you holding up, Mom?" Not, "I'm here for you." Just that question about inheritance. I should have seen it then. Tom tried to warn me too. He'd called last spring after Sarah had asked me for another loan. "Mom, I saw her financial situation when she asked me to look at her taxes. She's in over her head. You need to stop giving her money." But I didn't listen. She's my daughter. I raised her. I changed her diapers. I sat through every parent-teacher conference when her father was too busy with work. I was there for every scraped knee, every broken heart, every disappointment. I thought if I just loved her enough, helped her enough, she'd be okay. I didn't know she'd been gambling. That's what I found out later, after the accident. Sarah had developed a gambling addiction 3 years ago. It started small, $50 bets at the casino after work with colleagues. "Just for fun, Mom." But addiction doesn't stay small. Within a year, she was losing thousands, $8, $10, $12,000 a month. The casino had her loyalty card on file. $180,000 lost over 3 years. She'd tried treatment twice. Both times she dropped out after 2 weeks. "I can handle it," she'd told Miguel. "I don't have a problem." But she did have a problem. And I didn't know. She hid it well. When I'd see her at holidays, she'd seem stressed but normal, tired, worried about money. But who isn't? Last year, she'd started asking about the cabin more. Have you thought about what'll happen to it when you're gone? You should really update your will, Mom. Make sure everything's in order. Have you had the cabin appraised recently for insurance purposes? I thought she was being practical, responsible even, planning for the future. She was calculating how much she'd inherit. The cabin is worth between $400,000 and $500,000. The land alone, 2 acres of waterfront on Lake Riley, is valuable. Add in the house, the dock, the shed. It's a significant asset. If something happened to me, it would be split between Sarah and Tom, $225,000 each. For Sarah, drowning in debt, facing foreclosure, that was salvation. My neighbor at the Eyes cabin, Linda Patterson, is 72. She's lived next door for 20 years. Widow, like me. We'd have coffee together sometimes. She's observant, watches the lake with binoculars. Bird watching, she says, but I think she just likes knowing what's going on. Linda called me in September after Sarah had been at the cabin. I saw Sarah's car in your driveway Saturday morning, she'd said casually. Didn't know you were both up there. I told her I wasn't. Sarah must have stopped by to grab something. Huh? Linda had said. There was something in her tone. I saw her on the stairs with a screwdriver, thought maybe she was fixing something. At the time, I'd thought nothing of it. Sarah had a key. She'd grown up at that cabin. Maybe she'd noticed a loose board, wanted to help out. Now I know she wasn't fixing anything. She was breaking it. Looking back, there were other signs. The life insurance forms she'd brought me last month. Just routine updates, Mom. We should increase your coverage. You're getting older. Want to make sure everything's protected. She'd filled out most of it already. Just needed my signature. I'd signed without reading it carefully. My daughter was helping me with paperwork. Why would I question that? The policy went from $100,000 to $500,000. She'd changed the beneficiary from split between Tom and Sarah to 100% Sarah. Forged my signature on the beneficiary form. Paid the increased premium from my account without telling me. If I died on those stairs, she would have gotten $725,000 total. The cabin's half, plus the insurance payout. That night, after finding the browser history, I went back to the laptop. I needed to see more. I needed to understand. I found a second tab she'd left open, an email from the realtor, Mark Stevens. Property values on Lake Riley have been strong. Your mother's cabin, given the waterfront and size, would appraise between $450,000 and $500,000. Quick sales typically within 30 to 60 days if priced right. Sarah had replied, "Thank you. Just gathering information for estate planning purposes. May need to act quickly when the time comes." The email was dated September 14th, 2 weeks before my accident. She wasn't just researching. She was planning. She'd already decided. I couldn't sleep that night. I stayed at the cabin, doors locked, checking the windows every hour. At 3 in the morning, I went back to the laptop. I needed to see everything. Sarah had left more than browser tabs open. She'd left entire folders, files labeled Mom Estate and Financial Planning. I opened the first one. Inside were PDFs she'd downloaded, Minnesota inheritance laws, probate timelines, a calculator for estate taxes. She'd been thorough, methodical. This wasn't idle curiosity. This was research, planning. I found a document she'd created herself, a spreadsheet. My assets listed in neat columns. House, $320,000. Investments, $455,000. Checking and savings, $225,000. Cabin, $450,000. Total, $1,450,000. Below that, she'd written, divided by 2, $725,000 each. My stomach turned. She'd calculated exactly what she'd inherit, down to the dollar, and she'd done it months ago. The file was dated March of this year. I kept digging, found more emails with the realtor. When properties like this come on the market, how quickly do they typically sell? She'd asked. The realtor had responded with data, 30 to 60 days average, sometimes faster with the right buyer. Sarah had replied, "Good to know. Timing may be important." I sat back from the laptop. My hands were shaking again. This wasn't just about the cabin. She'd inventoried everything I owned, calculated her share, researched how fast she could liquidate it. At dawn, I called Tom, my son, the one I could trust. "Mom?" His voice was groggy. "It's 6 a.m. Are you okay?" "I need you to come to the cabin," I said. "I found something about Sarah." He was there by 9. I showed him everything, the browser history, the spreadsheet, the emails. He sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through it all, his face getting paler with each screen. "Jesus," he finally said. He looked up at me. "Mom, she researched how to kill you." Hearing him say it out loud made it real. Not just my paranoid suspicion, not just a misunderstanding I'd built up in my head. My daughter had researched how to make my death look like an accident. "I think she did something to the stairs," I said quietly. "When I fell, they just gave out, and Linda saw her here with tools that weekend." Tom stood up. "We need to call the police." "Not yet," I said. "I need to be sure. What if there's an explanation? What if—" "Mom." He put his hand on my shoulder. His wedding ring caught the light. David's ring. Tom had inherited it 5 years ago. "Look at this evidence. The searches, the timing, the spreadsheet. There's no other explanation." But I still wanted to believe there was, because she's my daughter. I raised her. And if this was true, if she'd really tried to kill me, then I'd failed somehow, as a mother, as a person. "Let me talk to her first," I said. Tom looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded. "Okay, but I'm staying here. And if she gives you any reason to think you're in danger, we call the police immediately." I called Sarah that afternoon. My hands shook as I dialed. "Mom!" She sounded cheerful, normal. "I was just thinking about you. How are you?" "I'm at the cabin," I said. "I found some things on the laptop, some searches you left in the browser history." There was a pause. Brief, but I heard it. "What searches?" Her voice had changed. Careful now, guarded. "Research about elderly falls, inheritance laws, the cabin's value." Another pause. Longer this time. "Oh." She laughed. It sounded forced. "Mom, those were for work. I had a case I was researching. An elderly client with some estate questions." "Which client?" It's confidential. Attorney-client privilege, you know." "You're a paralegal, Sarah, not an attorney." "Mom, why are you interrogating me?" Her voice shifted again. Defensive now, almost angry. "I use that laptop for work sometimes when I'm at the cabin. Are you seriously accusing me of something?" "The searches were dated 3 weeks before my accident," I said quietly. "The accident where the stairs collapsed, where I almost died." Silence. She trailed off. "That's a coincidence. Mom, you're not thinking clearly. The fall, did you hit your head? Maybe you should see a doctor." There it was, the gaslighting, making me doubt myself, making me sound crazy. "I didn't hit my head, Sarah." "Then why are you saying these things?" Her voice cracked. Was she crying or pretending to cry? "Do you really think I would hurt you? I'm your daughter. How can you even think that?" I wanted to back down, to apologize, to say I'd made a mistake. That's what I'd always done, kept the peace, avoided conflict. But then I thought about that spreadsheet. $725,000 each. "I found your spreadsheet too," I said. "The one where you calculated my assets, where you figured out what you'd inherit." The crying stopped. "I need to go," she said. Her voice was flat now, cold. "I can't believe you'd accuse me of this. After everything I've done, after all the times you've—" She stopped herself. "I can't talk to you right now." She hung up. I sat there holding the phone. Tom was watching me from across the kitchen. "She denied it?" he asked. "She tried to convince me I'm confused, that I hit my head in the fall." "That's not a denial." Tom pulled out his phone. "I'm calling a lawyer, Patricia Dawson. She specializes in elder law. I've referred clients to her before. She'll know what to do. While Tom made the call, I thought about the stairs. I needed to see them, needed to know for sure. I walked outside. The morning was cool, the lake smooth as glass. The stairs were on the side of the cabin, leading down from the deck to the stone patio below. 12 feet, far enough to kill someone my age if they fell wrong. I knelt at the top step, ran my fingers along the wood. The third step down, the one that had collapsed under me, looked normal from above. But when I examined it closer, I saw the nail holes, 4 of them. The nails were gone, just holes where they should have been. I pressed on the board. It shifted, loose. Someone had removed the nails, deliberately weakened the step, left it barely attached so it would give way under weight. My chest felt tight. I couldn't breathe properly. The railing had saved me. When the step collapsed, I'd grabbed the railing instinctively. My wrist had screamed with pain as I caught my full weight, but the railing had held. If it hadn't, I would have fallen 12 feet onto stone. At 68, that kind of fall could be fatal. Head injury, broken hip, massive internal bleeding. Sarah had counted on the railing not holding, or maybe she'd counted on me not grabbing it fast enough. I heard footsteps behind me, turned to see Linda, my neighbor, walking over from her place. Maggie? She looked concerned. You okay? You look pale. Linda. I stood up, my legs shaky. You said you saw Sarah here with a screwdriver. Can you tell me exactly what you saw? Linda hesitated. I don't want to get involved in family stuff. Please. She sighed. It was that Saturday morning, 2 days before you came up. I was having coffee on my porch around 8. Saw Sarah's car in your driveway. Figured she'd stop by to grab something. What was she doing? She was on these stairs. Linda gestured to where I was standing. Crouched down, working on something with a screwdriver. I couldn't see exactly what, but she was there for maybe 10-15 minutes. When she saw me watching, she waved, said something about fixing a loose board. Did the board look loose before? Linda shook her head. Those stairs were solid. Your husband David rebuilt them, 6 years ago? They were in perfect shape. And after Sarah left? I didn't check. Should I have? Linda's face crumpled with guilt. Oh God, Maggie, did she do something to them? Is that why you fell? I didn't answer. Couldn't. Linda grabbed my arm. I should have said something right away. When I heard you'd been hurt, I should have told someone I'd seen her there. I just thought... I didn't want to assume the worst. She's your daughter. It's not your fault, I said, but my voice sounded distant, like I was hearing myself from underwater. Tom appeared in the doorway. Mom, Patricia can see us tomorrow morning. She wants to review all the evidence. He saw my face. What happened? The nails are gone, I said, from the step that collapsed. Someone removed them. Tom came down the stairs carefully, checked where I was pointing. His jaw tightened. That's deliberate, he said. That's not wear and tear. Someone did this on purpose. Linda was crying now. I saw her. I saw Sarah here with tools. Oh God, she tried to kill you. The 3 of us stood there on the stairs. The morning sun was warm, the lake peaceful. Birds singing in the trees. Everything looked normal, beautiful even, but nothing was normal anymore. That's when I knew I couldn't pretend this was a misunderstanding. I couldn't give Sarah the benefit of the doubt. The evidence was too clear. The browser history, the spreadsheet, the emails, the tampered stairs, Linda's testimony. My daughter had planned this. She'd researched it. She'd calculated what she'd gain, and then she'd tried to kill me for it. I turned to Tom. Call Patricia, I said. Tell her I need to see her as soon as possible. Today, if she can. What are you going to do? Tom asked. I'm going to hire a lawyer, I said. I think Sarah tried to kill me, and I need to know what my options are. Patricia Dawson's office was in downtown St. Paul, 2nd floor of a restored brick building. Tom drove me there Wednesday morning. I barely slept the night before. Patricia was in her early 50s, Gray suit, kind eyes, the kind of woman who'd seen too much cruelty in her career but hadn't let it harden her. She specialized in elder law, estate planning, elder abuse cases. Maggie. She shook my hand, gestured to the chairs across from her desk. Tom's told me a little about what's happening, but I'd like to hear it from you. I told her everything. The fall, the browser history, the spreadsheet, the phone call with Sarah, the tampered stairs, Linda's testimony. My voice shook through some of it. Patricia listened without interrupting, took notes, nodded at key moments. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "This is attempted assault at minimum," she said quietly. "Possibly attempted murder, depending on how the prosecutor views the evidence. What you're describing is premeditated, planned. She researched it, calculated the financial gain, and then physically sabotaged property, knowing you'd use it." Hearing a lawyer say it made it more real. This wasn't just family drama. This was criminal. "What do I do?" I asked. "First, we document everything." Patricia pulled out a legal pad. "Every piece of evidence. We'll need to preserve it properly. The laptop, emails, any financial documents. Then we report it to the police. They'll open an investigation, probably financial crimes unit given the inheritance motive." "Will they arrest her?" "Depends on the evidence strength, but yes, possibly." Patricia's expression softened. "I know this is your daughter. This is incredibly difficult, but what she did, what the evidence shows she did, that's serious. If you died on those stairs, she would have inherited everything and no one would have questioned it." My hands were shaking. Tom reached over, put his hand on mine. Patricia opened a manila folder. "I asked Tom to send me what he could last night. The browser history printout. I want to walk you through what I'm seeing." She slid the folder across her desk. I didn't want to open it. "Take your time," she said. I opened it. The printout was right on top, white paper, highlighted in yellow. Each search line dated and time-stamped. September 12th. How to stage falls for elderly. 8:43 p.m., September 12th. Elderly fall injury mortality rate. 907. September 13th. Inheritance laws, Minnesota probate timeline. 7:32 a.m., September 13th. Life insurance payout after accidental death. 7:51 a.m., September 14th. Average time to sell lake property, Minnesota. 6:15 p.m., 23 searches total, all dated between September 12th and September 16th. My accident was October 1st, 3 weeks after she started researching. Each search was circled in red. Patricia had gone through them systematically, made notes, the margins. Premeditation, intent, financial motive clear. The paper felt heavy in my hands. Each line was proof. Each timestamp showed she'd thought about this, planned it, returned to it multiple times across 5 days. I looked up at Patricia. She researched how to kill me. "Yes," Patricia said gently, "that's what this shows." I sat there staring at the printout. Each search was dated. Each one proved she planned it. My daughter researched how to kill me. My chest felt hollow, empty. Like something essential had been scooped out and I was just functioning around the absence. Patricia gave me a moment. Then she continued. "Beyond the digital evidence, we have financial records." She pulled out another section of the folder. Tom provided Sarah's bankruptcy filing. She's $237,000 in debt, the foreclosure notice on her house, and these, she laid out casino statements, show gambling losses of $180,000 over 3 years. The numbers were stark, black and white. No way to argue with them. "She's underwater," Patricia said. "No way out except inheritance. When someone's this desperate, they can justify terrible things to themselves." "The cabin's worth $450,000, I said quietly. "Split between her and Tom, that's $225 each, plus the life insurance." Patricia nodded. "Speaking of which," she pulled out more documents, insurance policy paperwork. "You increased your life insurance from $100,000 to $500,000 6 months ago. Is that correct? Sarah brought me the forms, said I should increase coverage. I signed them. Look at this. Patricia pointed to the beneficiary form. This signature, the one changing the beneficiary from 50-50 between Tom and Sarah to 100%. Sarah, that's not your signature. Look at the loops in the G and the R. Compare it to your signature on the application. I looked. She was right. The signatures were similar but not identical. Someone had forged my name. That's insurance fraud, Patricia said. Combined with the premium increases being paid from your account without authorization, that's financial exploitation. She forged my signature? It appears so. We'll need a handwriting analyst to confirm it officially. But yes, I believe she did. $400,000 in additional insurance. Changed to benefit only her. If I died, she would have gotten that on top of the cabin value. $725,000 total. Beyond the financial motive, Patricia continued, we have physical evidence. Tom told me about the stairs. You examined them? 4 nails removed. The board was loose. My neighbor saw Sarah there with tools 2 days before I arrived. Patricia made a note. We'll need a professional inspection, someone who can document the tampering forensically. I can recommend a home inspector who's testified in legal cases before. He'll photograph everything, write a detailed report about the nail holes, tool marks, structural integrity. Will that be enough? I asked. For charges? Patricia looked at me steadily. Maggie, you have digital evidence showing premeditation, financial records showing motive, insurance fraud showing intent to profit, physical evidence showing she tampered with property, and an eyewitness who saw her there with tools. This is a strong case. Strong enough for what? Strong enough that the prosecutor will likely file charges. Attempted assault, possibly attempted murder if they think they can prove intent to kill versus intent to harm. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Insurance fraud. The words hung in the air. My daughter, facing criminal charges. What happens to her? I asked quietly. If convicted, prison time is possible? Probation, restitution, mandatory therapy? It depends on the charges and her defense. But this isn't something that goes away with an apology. I thought about Emma, my granddaughter, 16 years old. What would this do to her? Finding out her mother tried to kill her grandmother? I know this is hard, Patricia said softly. I know she's your daughter. But she tried to kill you, and if you don't press charges, if you don't protect yourself, what's to stop her from trying again? That's what made my decision. Not anger, not revenge, but the simple fact that Sarah had already tried once. She'd researched it, planned it, physically sabotaged the stairs, and when I'd confronted her on the phone, she'd tried to gaslight me, tried to make me think I was confused, injured, not thinking clearly. She hadn't apologized, hadn't admitted anything. She'd hung up on me when I mentioned the spreadsheet. If I did nothing, I'd spend the rest of my life wondering when she'd try again, if she'd succeed next time. What do I need to do? I asked. Patricia closed the folder. We file a police report, provide all this evidence. They'll open an investigation. Interview you, Sarah, Tom, your neighbor Linda. Examine the stairs. Subpoena the laptop and phone records. It'll take time. Weeks, maybe months. But we start by reporting what happened. And then? Then you protect yourself. We update your will. Remove Sarah as beneficiary. Put everything in a trust for your grandchildren that she can't access. We file for a restraining order. Change the locks on your house and cabin. Make sure she can't get near you while this is investigated. It felt like dismantling my family, piece by piece. But Patricia was right. I had to protect myself. There's one more thing, Patricia said. She pulled out a final document. Beyond the evidence we've discussed, there are witnesses. Your neighbor, Linda, saw Sarah at the cabin. The realtor remembers Sarah's questions about quick property sales. The insurance agent noticed her inquiries about payout timelines seemed unusual. People saw things, noticed things. They'll testify if needed. I nodded slowly. Maggie. Patricia leaned forward. I've seen too many cases like this. Elder abuse by family members, financial exploitation. It's more common than you'd think. And it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You were a good mother. Sarah made her choices. I wanted to believe that. But part of me still wondered if I'd been stricter, if I'd said no to the loans, if I'd set better boundaries, would she still have tried this? You can't think that way, Patricia said, reading my face. Addiction, desperation, greed, those are her problems, not yours. What you can do now is protect yourself and make sure she faces consequences. Tom squeezed my hand. Mom, you're doing the right thing. Was I? It didn't feel right. It felt like breaking something that could never be fixed, but maybe it was already broken. Maybe it had been for years and I'd just been too afraid to see it. Okay, I said quietly. File the report. Do what needs to be done. Patricia nodded. I'll contact the St. Paul Police Department, Financial Crimes Unit. We'll set up an interview. You'll need to give a statement. Bring all the evidence. They'll take it from there. How long does this take? Investigation phase, a few months. If they decide to press charges, there'll be an arraignment. Then depositions, potentially a trial. We're looking at 6 months to a year minimum. A year. A year of this hanging over everything. A year of not knowing what would happen. A year of family shattered, but also a year of being safe. Of Sarah not being able to hurt me. Of knowing I'd stood up for myself. Patricia closed the folder. We have enough for criminal charges. Attempted assault at minimum. The prosecutor will want to see this. She looked at me. Are you ready to move forward? I thought about the stairs, about falling, about my wrist catching me at the last second, about how close I'd come to dying. Yes, I said. File the charges. I went back to the cabin that afternoon, alone. Tom wanted to come with me, but I needed to do this by myself. The police had been there that morning, photographed the stairs, took the laptop, collected evidence. They'd left yellow tape marking off the staircase. Crime scene. My family's cabin was a crime scene now. I walked through the place slowly, room by room, touching things. The kitchen table where we'd played cards on rainy days. Sarah was 8 the summer she learned to play gin rummy. She'd been so proud when she beat her dad for the first time. David had pretended to be devastated. You're too good, Sarah Bear, I quit. She'd laughed that bright, clear laugh she had as a child. The living room where we'd read books by the fireplace. Sarah curled up next to me on the couch, my arm around her shoulders. Harry Potter, Anne of Green Gables, Little Women. She'd fall asleep during the quiet parts. I'd keep reading anyway, just for the feel of her there. The bedroom she'd claimed as hers every summer. This is Sarah's room, she'd announced to anyone who visited. Twin bed with the blue quilt my mother had made. Window overlooking the lake. She'd wake up early, come find me on the porch. Mommy, can we go fishing? I walked to that bedroom now, looked at the bed. The quilt was still there, 40 years old, faded but intact. I sat down on the edge of the mattress. This was supposed to be her inheritance, not just the cabin itself, the memories, the tradition. 3 generations of our family had come here. My father-in-law built it with his own hands in 1962. David and I brought our kids here every summer, taught them to swim, to fish, to respect the lake. Someday, I'd imagined, Sarah would bring her children here. Emma would learn to fish on the same dock where her mother had learned. But Sarah didn't want the cabin for memories. She wanted it for $450,000. I stood up, walked back outside, down to the dock. The lake was calm, late afternoon sun turning the water gold. A loon called from across the bay. The sound always reminded me of David. He loved that sound, said it was the sound of peace. I sat on the edge of the dock, let my feet dangle over the water. This was where I'd taught Sarah to fish. She was 8. maybe 9. Impatient at first, couldn't understand why the fish weren't biting immediately. "You have to be patient," I'd told her. "Fishing isn't about catching fish. It's about being here, being still, letting the world slow down." She'd rolled her eyes, but then she'd gone quiet, sat next to me, dangling her line in the water. We'd stayed there for 2 hours. Didn't catch anything, but at the end she'd leaned against me. "I like fishing with you, Mommy." 44 years of motherhood, 44 years of loving her, teaching her, giving her everything I could, and she was willing to kill me for this cabin. I sat there looking at the water, trying to understand. When had she become this person? Or had she always been this way and I just refused to see it? I thought about all the loans, all the money I'd given her. $85,000 for the bakery, $40,000 for the house, $25,000 for credit cards, twice. Every time she'd asked, I'd said yes, because that's what mothers do. We give, we sacrifice, we help our children build lives. But somewhere along the way, I'd stopped helping her and started enabling her. Robert, my financial advisor, had tried to tell me that 2 years ago. "You're teaching her she doesn't have to be responsible, Maggie, that you'll always bail her out. That's not love, that's enabling." I'd been angry at him, defensive. How dare he tell me how to parent my daughter? But he was right. Every check I wrote, I was teaching Sarah that money came easy, that she didn't have to face consequences, that Mom would always fix it. And when Mom didn't have any more money to give, when the retirement fund was empty and I'd told her no more loans, she'd looked at what I did have, the cabin, the life insurance, the house, and she'd decided to take it. My trust wasn't the problem. My generosity wasn't weakness. Her entitlement was the problem. The belief that my life, my assets, my property, they were hers to take, that I was just an obstacle between her and what she believed she deserved. I thought about the stairs, about falling, about my wrist catching me at the last second. If the railing hadn't held, I'd be dead right now. And Sarah would be going through my belongings, listing the cabin with that realtor, cashing out the life insurance, $725,000. She would have gotten away with it. Everyone would have believed it was an accident. Elderly woman falls at cabin. Tragic, but not suspicious. Maybe Tom would have had questions, but without evidence, without the browser history she'd accidentally left open, without proof, what could he have done? I could have died, and no one would have known she killed me. That thought made something shift inside me, harden. I wasn't responsible for Sarah's addiction. I wasn't responsible for her debt. I wasn't responsible for her choices. But I was responsible for my own safety, for protecting myself, for making sure she faced consequences for what she'd done. I stood up from the dock, walked back to the cabin. The evening air was cooling. Cicadas starting their evening song, the lake darkening from gold to deep blue. Inside, I made coffee. Sat at the kitchen table with my phone. I called Patricia. "Maggie?" She answered on the second ring. "Everything okay?" "I want to press charges," I said. My voice was steady, calm. "Criminal charges, attempted assault, whatever the prosecutor thinks is appropriate. I want Sarah held accountable." "Okay," Patricia said gently. "We can do that. I'll contact the prosecutor's office first thing tomorrow. With the evidence we have, they'll likely move forward." "What happens next?" "They'll review the case, interview witnesses. Probably in a few weeks, they'll file formal charges. Sarah will be arrested, arraigned. She'll get a lawyer. Then we go through the legal process, discovery, depositions, potentially a trial." "How long?" 6 months minimum. Possibly longer depending on her defense strategy. 6 months. Half a year of this. Of family torn apart. Of Tom caught in the middle. Of Emma learning what her mother did. But also 6 months of Sarah being held accountable. Of her not being able to hurt me. Of consequences finally catching up with her. "Do it," I said. "File the charges." Maggie, Patricia said carefully, once we do this, it can't be undone. Criminal charges are serious. Sarah could face prison time. Your relationship with her will likely never recover. It's already gone, I said quietly. She tried to kill me. That's not a relationship I can recover from. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Okay, I'll call the prosecutor tomorrow. We'll move forward. After I hung up, I sat at the table. The coffee was hot in my mug, the cabin quiet around me. Through the window, I could see the dock, the lake beyond it, the place where I'd taught Sarah to fish all those years ago. That little girl was gone. Or maybe she'd never existed the way I'd imagined her. Maybe I'd built an image of who I wanted her to be, and the reality had always been something different. The daughter I raised was gone. Or maybe I never really knew her at all. But I knew myself, and I knew I had to protect myself. This wasn't about punishment. It wasn't about revenge. It was about safety, about making sure that when I walked downstairs, checked my food, got in my car, I didn't have to wonder if Sarah had been there first. I knew what I had to do. I pressed charges the next morning. The St. Paul Police Department opened a formal investigation, Financial Crimes Unit. Detective Maria Santos was assigned to my case. She was thorough, professional, kind, took my statement, reviewed all the evidence, talked to Tom, to Linda, to Patricia. 3 weeks later, they filed charges. Attempted assault, financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, insurance fraud. Sarah was arrested on a Thursday morning. Tom called to tell me. His voice was shaken, sad. They took her from her house. Emma was there. She saw it. I felt my chest tighten. My granddaughter, 16 years old, watching her mother arrested. Is Emma okay? I asked. Miguel took her to his sister's house. Mom, she doesn't understand. She keeps asking if you're really going to send her mother to jail. I'm not sending her anywhere, I said quietly. Sarah's choices sent her there. What she did is criminal. I'm protecting myself. I know, Tom said, but try telling that to Emma. I couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. How do you explain to a 16-year-old that her mother tried to kill her grandmother for money? But I'd made my choice, and I had to live with the consequences. All of them. The next 6 weeks were a blur of legal procedures and family fallout. Sarah was arraigned 3 days after her arrest, pleaded not guilty. Her lawyer, Marcus Webb, was aggressive from the start. Criminal defense attorney, expensive. I had no idea how Sarah was paying for him. Later, I found out Miguel's family was covering the fees. They believed her story, that I was confused, that the fall had affected my judgment, that this was all a terrible misunderstanding. The prosecutor, James Reed, was methodical, 40-something, gray at the temples, 20 years in the DA's office. He reviewed every piece of evidence Patricia and I had gathered, the browser history, the spreadsheet, the forged insurance documents, the forensic report on the stairs. This is a strong case, he told me at our first meeting. But I need you to understand, criminal trials are difficult. Family cases especially. Juries don't like seeing mothers testify against daughters. The defense will paint you as vindictive. They'll say you're punishing her for being financially irresponsible. I'm not vindictive, I said quietly. I'm trying to stay alive. He nodded. I believe you, and the evidence supports that. But be prepared. This will get ugly. He was right. Tom stood by me. His wife Jennifer was supportive. You're doing the right thing, Maggie, she told me over coffee at their house. Sarah needs to face consequences, if not for your sake, then for her own. Tom's kids, my grandchildren, 12 and 14, didn't fully understand what was happening. Tom told them Aunt Sarah was sick, getting help, a version of the truth that protected them. But Sarah's family fractured. Miguel called me 2 weeks after the arrest. His voice was cold, formal. I need you to know I think you're making a terrible mistake. Sarah has problems, yes, gambling issues, but she would never hurt you. You're destroying her life over paranoia. "Miguel, have you seen the evidence?" I asked. "Evidence can be misinterpreted. You're elderly. The stress of the fall—" "Don't," I said. My voice was sharp, firmer than I usually let myself be. "Don't suggest I'm senile. I know what I saw. I know what she did." He was quiet for a moment. "Emma asks about you every day. She misses you, but I can't let her see you while this is going on. It's too confusing for her." That hurt more than anything. My granddaughter, 16 years old, caught in the middle of something she shouldn't have to understand. "Tell Emma I love her," I said quietly. "Tell her this isn't about punishing her mother. It's about keeping myself safe." "She's 16, Maggie. She doesn't understand nuance. She just knows her grandmother is trying to send her mother to jail." He hung up before I could respond. 3 weeks after the arraignment, Sarah's lawyer called Patricia. They wanted to talk settlement, avoid trial. Sarah would plead to a lesser charge, reckless endangerment instead of attempted assault, pay $15,000 in, restitution for my medical bills and legal fees, attend mandatory therapy for her gambling addiction, and stay away from me for a year. No criminal record, no prison time, just therapy and distance. Patricia presented the offer at her office. Tom was there with me. "It's not a bad deal," Patricia said carefully. "You'd get financial compensation, she'd get help for the gambling, and you'd avoid the stress of a trial." "She tried to kill me for $700,000, I said. "And they want me to accept $15,000? "The trial could take a year," Patricia said gently. "Depositions, testimony, having to relive this over and over, and juries are unpredictable. Even with strong evidence, there's no guarantee of conviction." I looked at Tom. He squeezed my hand. "It's your decision, Mom. Whatever you choose, I support you." I thought about it, really thought about it. Accepting the deal would mean this would be over. No trial, no testimony. Emma could see me again. Miguel would stop treating me like I was the villain. Life could go back to something approaching normal, but Sarah wouldn't have a record, wouldn't face real consequences. And without a conviction, without supervision, how could I be sure she wouldn't try again? Next time more carefully, next time without leaving evidence. "No," I said. "I'm not accepting that deal. She calculated what my life was worth to her. $15,000 doesn't make me whole, and without a conviction, she's not supervised. I won't be safe." Tom nodded. "I think that's right." Patricia made a note. "I'll tell the prosecutor." We continued to trial prep. The offer had been tempting, but I knew if I accepted it, I'd spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, wondering, waiting. Sarah's response to the rejection was swift. Her lawyer went on the offensive, started questioning my mental state in court filings, suggested I had early-stage dementia, that the fall had caused cognitive impairment, that my paranoid delusions were the result of age-related decline. It was gaslighting on a legal scale, making me doubt myself, making me sound unreliable, crazy. "They're trying to undermine your credibility," Patricia explained. "Standard defense strategy. If they can make you seem confused or unreliable, the evidence becomes less convincing." "I'm not confused," I said. But even as I said it, I felt the doubt creeping in. What if they were right? What if the fall had affected me more than I realized? "You're not confused," Tom said firmly. "I've seen the evidence, Mom, the spreadsheet, the browser history, the emails. That's not paranoia. That's documentation." But the doubt lingered. That's what gaslighting does. It makes you question reality even when you know the truth. Around this time, my financial advisor, Robert, called. "Maggie, I've been reviewing your accounts like you asked. Going back through the last 5 years, I found something." We met at his office. He had printouts spread across his desk, transaction records, my accounts, highlighted entries. "These withdrawals," he pointed to 15 different transactions, "small amounts, 500 here, 800 there, 1,500. They add up to about $8,000 over 3 years. Do you remember authorizing these? I looked at the dates, times when Sarah had been at my house, times she'd had access to my checkbook, my computer, my accounts. No, I said quietly. I didn't authorize those. She was forging checks, Robert said, or had access to your online banking. This is beyond the loans you gave her willingly. This is theft. $8,000 might not sound like much compared to the $190,000 I'd given her over the years, but it was different. The loans I'd chosen to give, this she'd taken without asking, without my knowledge. For 3 years, she'd been stealing from me. Can we add this to the criminal case? I asked Patricia later. Potentially. It strengthens the financial exploitation charge, shows a pattern. I'll talk to the prosecutor. Every week brought something new, another layer of betrayal, another example of how long Sarah had been planning this, taking advantage of me, calculating what she could get. But the stress was taking its toll. I went to my doctor. Dr. Patel, I'd been seeing him for 15 years, for a routine checkup. He took my blood pressure 3 times, frowned. 165 over 98, he said. Maggie, that's concerning. Have you been under stress? I almost laughed. You could say that. He prescribed medication, told me to monitor it daily, warned me that sustained high blood pressure at my age could lead to stroke, heart attack, kidney damage. You need to manage this stress or it will literally kill you. Tom heard about the blood pressure, wanted me to drop the case. Mom, it's not worth dying over. If I drop it, I might die anyway, I said. At least this way I'm fighting back. But he was right to worry. Some nights I couldn't sleep, lay awake thinking about the trial, about testifying, about Emma, about whether I was doing the right thing or just making everything worse. Linda, my cabin neighbor, called regularly, checked on me. How are you holding up? She'd ask. I'm managing, I'd say, which was true. I was managing. Barely. She felt guilty still. If I'd said something right away when I saw Sarah at those stairs, Linda, you couldn't have known. None of us could have. My book club friends, Carol, Janet, Diane, they rallied around me in their quiet way, invited me to coffee more often, sent cards. Carol brought me a casserole one evening. You look tired, she said simply. Eat something. Small kindnesses. They didn't solve anything, but they helped. 4 weeks after rejecting the plea deal, the prosecution finished their investigation. Robert's discovery of the additional thefts had added weight to the case. Detective Santos had interviewed everyone, gathered all the evidence. The bank had cooperated, providing records of the unauthorized transfers. Marcus Webb, Sarah's lawyer, tried one more approach, called Patricia directly, not a formal plea deal, just, what if Sarah paid back all the money? The $8,000 she'd stolen, plus the $15,000 in restitution, plus the $85,000 from the failed bakery, if Maggie would just drop the criminal charges? I was almost tempted. $108,000. It wouldn't cover everything I'd given her over the years, but it was something. It was acknowledgement. But it still wasn't a conviction, still wasn't supervision, still wasn't safety. No, I told Patricia. The money isn't the point. The attempted murder is the point. One night, late, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Grandma? Emma's voice crying. Emma? Sweetheart, what's wrong? Please don't do this, she sobbed. Please don't send Mom to jail. She made a mistake. She's sorry. Please, I need my mom. I can't. Grandma, please. My heart broke. Emma, honey, I know this is hard. You're supposed to love her. You're supposed to forgive her. That's what families do. Emma, what your mother did. I don't care what she did. She was shouting now through tears. She's my mom. You're ruining everything. I hate you. The line went dead. I sat there holding the phone, my granddaughter, 16 years old, hating me, believing I was the villain in this story. Tom called 20 minutes later. "Mom, Emma called you. Miguel just found out. He's furious she got your number. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault." "She doesn't understand," Tom said quietly. "She just sees her mom in trouble and her grandmother pressing charges. She's too young to understand attempted murder, financial exploitation, all of it." "I know," my voice cracked. "But I can't stop, Tom. If I stop, Sarah wins, and I'm not safe." "I know, Mom. You're doing the right thing, even if it doesn't feel like it." But it didn't feel right. It felt like I was choosing my safety over my granddaughter's well-being, over family, over forgiveness. Dr. Chen, my therapist, I'd started seeing her weekly after the charges were filed, helped me process it. "You're not choosing between safety and family," she said gently. "Sarah made that choice when she tried to kill you. You're just responding to her choice." "Then why does it feel like I'm the one breaking everything?" "Because you're the one taking visible action. But the breaking happened before, when she loosened those stairs, when she forged your signature. The breaking happened when she decided your life was worth less than money." I wanted to believe that. Some days I did. Some days I was certain I was doing the right thing. That pressing charges was about survival, protection, consequences. Other days I wondered if I was just being vindictive, punishing Sarah for all the disappointments, all the loans, all the years of enabling that I now regretted. But then I'd remember the stairs, the feeling of falling, the terror, and I'd know. This wasn't punishment. This was survival. The deposition was scheduled for 6 weeks out, Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Sarah would be questioned under oath by the prosecutor. All the evidence would be presented formally. Witnesses would testify. Everything would become official record. "That's when this gets real," Patricia told me. "That's when Sarah will have to answer questions under oath, when she'll have to face the evidence directly." Will I be there? You can be. It's a deposition, not a trial, less formal, but you'll hear everything. See her face when they show her the browser history, the spreadsheet, the forged insurance forms. Did I want that? To see her face? To hear her try to explain it? Yes. I needed to hear her admit it, needed to hear her say out loud what she'd done. "I'll be there," I said. 6 weeks, 42 days. Then I'd have my answers. Then Sarah would have to tell the truth, or try to lie her way out of it. Either way, I'd know. The deposition was scheduled for Wednesday, 9 a.m. at Patricia's law office. They'd rented the larger conference room, neutral ground. Not quite a courtroom, but official, formal. I arrived early with Tom. Patricia was already there, arranging documents. James Reed, the prosecutor, was reviewing notes. Sarah's lawyer, Marcus Webb, sat across the table. Expensive suit, confident posture. And Sarah, my daughter. I hadn't seen her in person since before the arrest. 8 weeks. She looked thinner, tired, dark circles under her eyes. She wouldn't look at me when I walked in, just stared at the table in front of her. The court reporter set up in the corner, stenography machine ready. Everything that would be said here would become official record. Evidence, testimony. "We'll begin with evidence presentation," James Reed said. He was calm, professional. This was routine for him. For me, it felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet again. He opened the first folder, slid documents across the table. "Digital evidence," he said. "Browser history from the laptop found at the cabin, recovered by forensics." The pages were spread out. 23 searches, each one dated, each one time-stamped. September 12th, Reed continued, reading from the printout. 8:43 p.m. Search query, how to stage falls for elderly. Same day, 9:07 p.m. Elderly fall injury mortality rate. September 13th, 7:32 a.m. Inheritance laws, Minnesota probate timeline. He read through them methodically, one by one. Sarah's face stayed blank, neutral, but her hands were shaking slightly, clasped together on the table. 23 searches over 4 days. Reed said, all from Sarah's user account, all dated between September 12th and September 16th. The incident occurred October 1st, approximately 3 weeks later. He looked at Sarah. Can you explain these searches? Marcus Webb leaned forward. My client was conducting research for her work as a paralegal. Which case? Reed asked. I don't recall the specific case number, Sarah said quietly. Her first words. Her voice sounded small, different from the confident woman I'd raised. You don't recall, Reed repeated. These searches included how to stage falls for elderly and elderly fall injury mortality rate. What kind of legal case would require that research? Elder law cases, estate planning. We deal with elderly clients. Your firm confirmed you had no active cases involving elderly falls during September, Reed said. He slid another document across. This is a letter from your supervising attorney. No cases matching that description. Sarah's jaw tightened. I must have been mistaken about the timing. Reed didn't push further. He moved to the next folder. Financial records, he said. Bankruptcy filing for Sarah Thompson Martinez. Total debt, $237,000. Filed August of this year, 1 month before the browser searches began. He laid out the documents. Foreclosure notice. Casino statements showing losses of $180,000 over 3 years. Credit card statements maxed out. You were in severe financial distress, Reed said. It wasn't a question. I had financial problems, yes. Problems that would be solved by inheritance. Reed slid the spreadsheet across, the one Sarah had created. My assets listed in neat columns, total at the bottom, divided by 2. Sarah looked at it. Her face went paler. Did you create this document? Reed asked. She nodded, barely. For the record, Ms. Thompson Martinez? Yes, she said. I created it. Can you explain why you were calculating your mother's assets and your potential inheritance? I was planning for the future, estate planning. This document is dated March, Reed said, 6 months before the incident. You calculated that if your mother died, you'd inherit approximately $725,000. Is that correct? I was just being practical. Practical. Reed let the word hang in the air. He moved to the next folder. Property research. Emails between yourself and realtor Mark Stevens, inquiring about cabin values on Lake Riley, asking about quick sale timelines. May need to act quickly when the time comes. Those are your words? Yes, but when what time comes, Ms. Thompson Martinez? Sarah didn't answer. Reed continued. Insurance documents. Your mother's life insurance policy increased from $100,000 to $500,000 6 months before the incident. Beneficiary changed from split between you and your brother to 100% in your name. Do you recall that? My mother wanted to update her coverage. This signature. Reed pointed to the beneficiary form. The handwriting analyst has determined this is not your mother's signature. It's a forgery. Did you forge your mother's signature on this document? Sarah looked at Marcus. He whispered something to her. I'm not sure. Maybe she signed it and I misremembered. The analyst is certain, Reed said. This is not Margaret Thompson's signature. Someone forged it. Who had access to these documents? Sarah didn't answer. Let's move to physical evidence, Reed said. He pulled out photographs. The cabin stairs. Before and after, close-ups of nail holes, tool marks on the wood. Home Inspector Daniel Marks examined these stairs on October 3rd, 2 days after Mrs. Thompson's fall. His report indicates 4 nails were removed from the 3rd step. 2 boards were loosened from their supports. The damage was not consistent with wear and tear. Someone deliberately weakened these stairs. He slid the photos towards Sarah, made her look at them. Inspector Marks testified that tool marks indicate recent tampering. Within 48 to 72 hours of his inspection, your neighbor, Linda Patterson, witnessed you at the cabin on September 29th with tools, working on these stairs. Do you remember that? I was trying to fix a loose board, Sarah said. Her voice was defensive now. I noticed it was wobbly. I was helping. By removing nails? No, Reed held up his hand. We'll hear from the witnesses. Linda was first, my neighbor, 72 years old. She dressed nicely for this. Navy blue dress, pearl necklace. Nervous, but determined. Mrs. Patterson, Reed said gently, can you tell us what you saw on September 29th? I was on my porch having morning coffee, Linda said. Her voice was steady. Around 8 a.m., I saw Sarah's car in Maggie's driveway. The cabin, I mean, Mrs. Thompson's cabin. And what did you observe? Sarah was on the stairs, the outside stairs going down to the patio. She was crouched down, working on something with a screwdriver. Maybe a pry bar, I couldn't see exactly. But she was there for 10, maybe 15 minutes. Did she see you? Yes. She looked up, saw me watching, waved, called out something about fixing a loose board. Had the stairs been loose before? No, Linda said firmly. David, Maggie's late husband, he rebuilt those stairs 6 years ago. They were solid. I never saw any loose boards. And after Sarah left, did you check the stairs? No, I didn't think anything of it at the time. She had a key. It was her family's cabin. I thought she was being helpful. When did you realize it might be something else? Linda's voice wavered. When I heard Maggie had fallen, that the stairs had collapsed, I kept thinking about Sarah there with that screwdriver, and I should have said something sooner. I feel terrible. You're saying something now, Reed said gently. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. The second witness was Daniel Marks, the home inspector, 50-something, professional, experienced. He'd testified in legal cases before. Mr. Marks, Reed said, you inspected the stairs at the Thompson cabin on October 3rd. What did you find? 4 nails removed from the 3rd step, Marks said. He had photos, diagrams, showed them as he spoke. 2 boards loosened from their structural supports. The nails weren't worn or rusted. They were cleanly removed. I found tool marks on the wood consistent with a screwdriver or pry bar. In your professional opinion, was this damage accidental? No, this was deliberate. Someone unscrewed or pried these nails out, left the boards barely attached so they'd give way under weight. Could this have happened naturally? Weather, age, deterioration? Not in this pattern. Natural deterioration would show rust, decay, multiple points of failure. This was targeted. Someone knew exactly which nails to remove to make the step collapse. If someone fell from these stairs, what would be the likely outcome? 12 feet to a stone patio. For an elderly person, that's potentially fatal. Broken hip, head trauma, internal injuries. The fact that Mrs. Thompson survived is lucky. Sarah's face was pale. She was gripping the edge of the table. Now. Reed closed the evidence folders. Beyond these witnesses, we have testimony from the realtor who received Sarah's inquiries about cabin values, the insurance agent who noted her unusual questions about payout timelines, the bank records showing unauthorized withdrawals from Mrs. Thompson's accounts. Each piece points to the same conclusion. He looked at Sarah directly. Ms. Thompson Martinez, you researched how to stage falls in elderly people. You calculated your inheritance. You increased your mother's life insurance and forged her signature to make yourself sole beneficiary. You were witness tampering with stairs 2 days before your mother arrived at the cabin. Those stairs collapsed under her weight. She nearly died. Can you explain this pattern? Marcus Webb put his hand on Sarah's arm. My client... I can answer, Sarah said. Her voice was barely audible. Everyone went still. The gambling, Sarah said. She was crying now, real tears. It got so bad, I lost everything. The house, Miguel left me, I just thought if the insurance... She stopped, couldn't finish the sentence. If your mother died, Reed said quietly, you'd inherit. Is that what you were going to say? Sarah nodded. tears streaming down her face. "For the record, Ms. Thompson-Martinez?" "Yes," she whispered. "I thought if she died, I'd get the insurance money in the cabin. I could pay off the debts, start over. And the stairs?" Sarah was sobbing now. Couldn't speak. "Did you tamper with the stairs?" "I didn't think she'd really get hurt," Sarah choked out. "I just loosened the boards a little. I thought maybe she'd twist an ankle, go to the hospital, maybe the stress would..." She covered her face with her hands. "God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for her to almost die." The room was silent except for Sarah's crying. I sat there watching my daughter confess, watching her admit she'd planned it, that she'd tampered with the stairs, that she'd calculated what my life was worth to her. When she admitted it, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted, sad. The daughter I raised was gone. Or maybe I never really knew her. Marcus Webb called for a recess. "My client needs a moment." We broke for 30 minutes. Tom took me to Patricia's office, made me sit down, got me water. "You okay?" he asked. I didn't know how to answer that. My daughter had just admitted under oath that she'd tried to kill me, that she'd calculated my death would solve her problems. Was I okay? "She admitted it," I said finally. "Yeah," Tom said quietly. "She did." When we returned to the conference room, Marcus Webb looked defeated. Sarah's face was blotchy from crying. Reed and Patricia were talking quietly. "My client," Webb said, "would like to discuss a resolution, avoid trial. She's prepared to plead guilty to attempted assault, accept the consequences." Reed looked at me. This was my decision ultimately. The prosecutor would follow my lead. "What are the consequences?" I asked. "I'd recommend 5 years supervised probation," Reed said. "Mandatory gambling addiction treatment, regular check-ins with a probation officer, restitution of $15,000 for your medical expenses and therapy, and a no-contact order. Sarah cannot contact you for the duration of her probation." "Prison?" I asked. "Attempted assault can carry prison time," Reed said. "But given this is a first offense, she has a dependent child and she's agreed to enter treatment. I'd recommend probation. She faces real consequences, but Emma doesn't lose her mother entirely." I looked at Sarah. She was staring at the table. Couldn't meet my eyes. 5 years. 5 years of her being supervised, monitored, unable to hurt me. 5 years of mandatory therapy, of facing what she'd done. "And if I say no?" I asked. "If we go to trial?" "We pursue attempted murder charges," Reed said. "If convicted, she's looking at 10 to 20 years in prison. But trials are unpredictable. Juries can be sympathetic to family cases. There's a risk." I thought about Emma, 16 years old. Her mother in prison for 10 years, growing up without her. That wasn't Sarah's punishment. That was Emma's. "The plea deal," I said slowly. "She admits guilt? It's on her record?" "Yes," Reed said. "Felony conviction. Attempted assault. She'll have that on her record permanently. Background checks, job applications, everything. She'd never be a paralegal again. Felons can't work in law. She'd have to start over. New career, new life. But she'd be alive. Free. Able to see Emma." "I accept," I said. "The plea deal. 5 years probation, treatment, no contact, restitution." Patricia nodded. Reed made notes. Sarah looked up at me finally. "Mom." "No," I said. My voice was firm, calm. "You don't get to call me that anymore. You calculated what my life was worth to you. You loosened the stairs you knew I'd walk down. You tried to kill me, Sarah. The no-contact order includes talking to me here." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Started crying again, but I felt nothing, just emptiness. The girl I'd raised, the woman I'd given everything to, she was gone. The stranger crying across the table wasn't my daughter anymore. Maybe she never had been. "The judge will need to approve the plea," Reed said. "Sentencing hearing in 6 weeks. She'll plead guilty to attempted assault, accept the terms, then it's done." Done. Not resolved, not healed, just done. We left the conference room. Tom walked me to the car. Neither of us spoke for a while. "You did the right thing," he said finally, accepting the plea. "Emma needs her mother." "I know, but you're not okay." "No," I said quietly. "I'm not okay, but I'm alive, and Sarah will face consequences. That's enough. It has to be." The sentencing hearing was 6 weeks later, early December. The courthouse was cold, formal. Sarah pleaded guilty to attempted assault. The judge accepted the plea, 5 years supervised probation, $15,000 restitution, mandatory gambling treatment, weekly sessions, random drug testing to ensure compliance. No contact order. Sarah couldn't come within 500 feet of me for the duration of her probation. The judge looked at Sarah. "You understand that a felony conviction means you cannot work in law? That this will be on your record permanently?" "Yes, Your Honor," Sarah said quietly. "And you understand that if you violate probation, if you contact Mrs. Thompson, if you miss treatment, if you're arrested again, you'll serve the prison time this plea is suspending." "I understand." The gavel came down. Done. The consequences unfolded over the following months. Sarah lost her paralegal job the day after sentencing. Felony conviction meant she could no longer work in any legal capacity. Background checks would show attempted assault for the rest of her life. She found work eventually. Retail, 40 hours a week at a home goods store. Minimum wage plus commission. A far cry from the career she'd spent 15 years building. The divorce from Miguel was finalized in January. He got full custody of Emma. The judge ruled that Sarah's criminal conviction and ongoing gambling issues made her a risk. She'd get supervised visits, 2 hours every other Sunday at a community center with a social worker present. Emma was in therapy now, processing her mother's crime, processing the family fracture. I didn't know if she'd ever forgive me. Tom said to give her time, that she was young, that someday she might understand. My own living situation changed. I sold the big house in the suburbs in February. Too many stairs, too many rooms I didn't need, too many memories. I bought a ground floor condo at the Willows, a senior community 10 minutes from Tom's house. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, small kitchen, living room, 1,100 square feet, safe, security system, emergency call button in every room, no stairs anywhere. The cabin at Lake Riley sold in March, $435,000. Tom and I split the proceeds. His half, $217,000, I gave him early. He'd been so supportive through everything. He tried to refuse it, said it was my money, but I insisted. "You've earned it," I told him, "and I want to know you and Jennifer and the kids are taken care of." My half, $218,000, I put into a trust. Professional trustee, Robert Chen, managing it. For Emma and Tom's kids, $50,000 specifically for Emma's college fund, protected so Sarah couldn't touch it even after probation ended. The rest split between Tom's children, distributions at age 25 or for college, first home, medical emergencies, everything legally protected. Sarah couldn't access a dollar of it. Tom came over regularly after I moved into the condo, twice a week for dinner. He'd bring groceries, check the locks, make sure I was settling in. We'd cook together. Spaghetti, pot roast, the simple meals that felt like comfort. He never hovered, never treated me like I was fragile, just made sure I was okay. "You're doing good, Mom," he said one evening in April. We were sitting on my small balcony watching the sunset. "I know this has been hell, but you're standing. You protected yourself." "I lost my daughter," I said quietly. "You didn't lose her," Tom said. "She chose gambling and greed over you. That's not your fault." I wanted to believe that. Most days I did. Patricia called in May to finalize the estate planning. Everything was updated. New will. Tom as executor, Sarah explicitly excluded. The trust for grandchildren was ironclad, power of attorney to Patricia, not family, healthcare proxy to Tom, living will specifying my wishes, all documents notarized, filed, secured. "No one can forge your signature again," Patricia said. "No one can access your assets without proper authorization. You're protected." "Thank you," I said. "For everything, for believing me, for fighting for me." "You fought for yourself," Patricia said gently. "I just helped with the paperwork." Linda, my former cabin neighbor, called occasionally. She'd moved to Iowa to be near her daughter, sold her cabin too. Couldn't stand being there after everything that had happened. We'd talk about the lake sometimes, the peaceful mornings, the loons, the way the water looked at sunset. We didn't talk about Sarah. 3 months after sentencing, I got a letter. Sarah's handwriting on the envelope. My first instinct was to throw it away. The no-contact order meant she wasn't supposed to write me, but curiosity won. I opened it. "Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. The gambling took over my life. I convinced myself you'd be fine without the money, that it was early inheritance, not really stealing. I didn't think you'd actually get hurt badly. I'm in treatment now. Real treatment. I don't expect you to forgive me. I destroyed everything. I'm sorry." I read it twice. Looked for sincerity, found mostly excuses. Early inheritance. Didn't think you'd get hurt badly. Still minimizing, still rationalizing. I called Dr. Chen, my therapist. She sent a letter. I don't know how to feel about it. "What do you want to feel?" Dr. Chen asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to believe she's changed. But if she hadn't been caught, would she feel sorry?" "That's a good question to sit with," Dr. Chen said. I sat with it, and the answer became clear. No. If she hadn't been caught, if the laptop hadn't revealed the browser history, if Linda hadn't seen her with tools, Sarah would have inherited everything and never looked back. The sorry was for getting caught, not for trying. The no-contact order stays, I decided. Maybe someday I'd be ready to hear from her, but not now. Maybe not ever. The cabin photos, I kept a few. Select memories. Sarah at 8 with her first fish, family gathered around the campfire, David on the dock at sunset, the good times. Before greed poisoned everything. I hung one in my living room, small frame on the bookshelf, a reminder of what was, not what could have been. It's been 18 months since the deposition, 2 years since Sarah loosened those stairs. I'm 70 now. I live alone in my condo at the Willows. Ground floor, 1,100 square feet, no stairs anywhere. It's smaller than I'm used to, but it's mine. It's safe. I see Dr. Chen every week. We're working through the PTSD, nightmares about falling. They've decreased from 3 times a week to once a month. Progress. The hypervigilance around stairs is better too. I can walk past them now without my chest tightening, without imagining what could go wrong. Some days I'm okay. Some days I can't stop thinking about those stairs, about finding that browser history, about my daughter researching how to kill me. Dr. Chen says that's normal. Trauma doesn't have a timeline. My blood pressure is controlled. Medication daily, monitoring. Dr. Patel says I'm doing well considering everything. Book club meets Tuesdays at the community center. Carol, Janet, Diane. We're reading mysteries mostly. They know what happened. Don't pry. Just invite me to coffee after. Check in quietly. That's enough. Tom visits twice a week, brings groceries, checks the locks, stays for dinner. Emma called last month. First time in over a year, she wanted to talk. We met for coffee. Supervised, Miguel present. It was awkward, painful. But it was a start. I'm rebuilding. It's not the life I planned. I thought I'd leave the cabin to my kids someday. Instead, I barely escaped with my life. But I'm here. I'm managing. Everything's protected now. My will is ironclad. Sarah's explicitly excluded. Tom's executor. The trust for my grandchildren, $200,000, is managed professionally. Sarah can't touch a dollar of it, even after her probation ends. If something happens to me, my assets go where I choose. Not to someone who tried to kill me for them. The cabin's gone, the physical property, the land, the dock where I taught Sarah to fish. I sold it. But I kept what mattered, the good memories. The time before greed poisoned everything. One photo on my bookshelf, a reminder that love isn't always enough, that sometimes people choose money over family, and that's not on me. I speak at the senior center now, Once a month, elder abuse awareness, financial exploitation warning signs. When family members betray, recognizing the red flags. I tell my story, some of it, enough to help others protect themselves. If my story helps one person recognize the signs and protect themselves, it's worth telling. Sarah's still on probation. 3 more years. She works retail, sees Emma twice a month under supervision. The gambling treatment is ongoing. She relapsed once, 6 months ago. Her probation officer reports to the court monthly. She's being monitored. She can't hurt me again. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again, but I'm learning to trust myself, to listen to my instincts, to know that setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's survival. If you're experiencing elder abuse, financial exploitation, physical harm, emotional manipulation by family members, you're not alone. National Elder Abuse Hotline 1-800-677-1116. Local elder law attorneys can help protect your assets. Support groups meet at senior centers nationwide. Don't stay silent out of shame or family loyalty. Your safety matters more than preserving relationships with people who harm you. Document everything. Red flags with family and money. Don't ignore them. Family doesn't get a pass on abuse. Protect yourself legally. Update your will. Use professionals, not family, for power of attorney. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have pressed charges against your own child? I'm 70 now, 2 years older than when Sarah tried to kill me. I sold the cabin, but I kept my life. I'm here. I'm safe. I'm moving forward. Some days, that's enough. Some days, it has to be.